You think you're finally making it. The nicer car, the better apartment, the premium subscriptions. But what if these upgrades are actually the reason you'll never be able to retire? Today, we're exposing the 5 silent wealth killers that feel like success, but are actually keeping you broke. Let's paint a real picture for a second. Imagine someone, a regular person living in the United States, who got a raise last year. Maybe they went from $55,000 a year to $72,000. That's a solid jump. That's progress. And for about 3 weeks, it genuinely felt like something shifted. They moved into a nicer place, a little more square footage, better neighborhood. Traded in their old car for something newer with a monthly payment that felt manageable. Started buying better food, nicer clothes, saying yes to more dinners out because, honestly, they earned it. Fast forward to today. Their bank account looks about the same as it did before the raise. Maybe worse. And there's this quiet, persistent anxiety that lives somewhere in the chest that never fully goes away, even when the paycheck clears. Sound familiar? My name is Ely, and I spend way too much time thinking about how people in the US experience money psychologically. If you're someone who earns a normal income, maybe even more than you used to, but still doesn't feel financially secure, hit subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Because what we're talking about today isn't budgeting spreadsheets or index fund theory. It's the invisible psychological current that pulls most people further from wealth even as their income rises. And understanding that current is the first step to actually swimming against it. Here's the thing. Most financial advice skips the part that actually matters. It tells you what to do, but never why it's so hard to do it. And the why is everything. Because the 5 lifestyle upgrades we're going to walk through today are not random bad decisions. They are deeply logical, emotionally satisfying choices that fit perfectly into how American consumer culture is designed. And that's exactly what makes them so dangerous. Let's start with the first one. The first silent wealth killer is the apartment or house upgrade that feels like a responsible adult move. In 2024, the median rent for a 1-bedroom apartment in the United States crossed $1,500 a month in most mid-sized cities. In places like Austin, Denver, or Miami, it's well over $2,000. Now, when someone gets a raise and moves into a better place, the math in their head usually goes something like this. I'm making more money. My rent is going up by maybe $400 a month. That's only a little more than what I was paying, and the new place is so much better. Totally worth it. Here's what most people don't realize. That $400 monthly increase is not just $400. Over the course of a year, that's $4,800 that is permanently removed from any possibility of being saved or invested. And because this is a recurring fixed expense, it resets the floor of what your life costs to maintain. The psychological term for this is hedonic adaptation. The brain has a remarkable ability to normalize new circumstances, and fast. Within about 3 months of moving somewhere nicer, the excitement is completely gone, but the cost remains. Every month, for as long as you live there. Research from Princeton's Woodrow Wilson School found that emotional well-being tends to plateau around $75,000 in annual income, meaning lifestyle improvements above a certain spending level stop producing proportional happiness, but they do produce proportional debt. That number has been revisited and debated, but the core finding stays consistent. More spending is not the same as more satisfaction. We confuse the two constantly because upgrades feel like progress. Here's the action to take here. Before committing to any housing upgrade, calculate the full 12-month cost increase, not just the monthly difference. Then ask, if I save that difference instead for 1 year, what would that number look like? The goal isn't to live in discomfort. It's to catch the brain mid-rationalization and force it to do the actual math. The second wealth killer is the car payment that became just part of life. According to Experian State of the Automotive Finance Market Report, the average monthly car payment in the United States is now over $730 for a new vehicle, over $520 for used. And these payments are being stretched across 72 and even 84-month loan terms, 6 and 7 years. Let that sit for a moment. A 7-year commitment to a depreciating asset built around a monthly payment number that felt affordable at the dealership. Now look, this one has a real psychological layer to it that most finance channels will skip entirely. In the United States, cars are not neutral objects. They communicate status, competence, and belonging. Pulling up to a work event, a date, a family gathering. What you drive sends a signal, and people are acutely aware of what that signal says. The American Psychological Association has documented that financial stress is consistently among the top sources of anxiety in the country, and yet cultural messaging constantly links car quality to personal worth. This is where it gets interesting. The person with the $720 monthly car payment isn't being irrational. They're responding perfectly to a social environment that rewards visible signals of success. The problem is that the environment lies. The car communicates wealth while quietly dismantling it. A $720 payment over 7 years is $60,480 on a vehicle that, by the end of that term, might be worth $8,000. The action step here is not to drive something you're embarrassed by. It's to separate the identity function of a car from the financial function. A 2 to 3 year old certified pre-owned vehicle with a shorter loan term, or ideally no loan at all, does the same transportation job at a fraction of the long-term cost. The status hit is almost always smaller than we anticipate. The third one is the subscription creep that feels like efficiency. This one is almost invisible because each individual charge is so small. A streaming service here, a fitness app there, a meal kit subscription, a cloud storage upgrade, a news outlet, a podcast platform, a premium version of a free tool. The Federal Reserve's report on the economic well-being of U.S. households found that a significant portion of Americans cannot cover an unexpected $400 expense without borrowing. And yet, when researchers look at household spending patterns, recurring subscription charges have quietly become one of the fastest-growing expense categories in the country. Here's the psychological mechanism driving this. Subscriptions are designed to exploit something called the pain of paying. When a purchase is a one-time transaction, the brain registers a clear cost. But when charges are automated, recurring, and small, the brain stops processing them as losses. They become invisible. Marketers know this. It's why the default is always automatic renewal, why free trials always require a credit card, and why cancellation flows are deliberately complicated. Now you might be thinking, but these are small amounts. This can't really matter that much. Let's do the math together. Imagine someone paying for 7 or 8 subscriptions, streaming, fitness, cloud storage, a couple of apps, averaging out to around $220 per month. That's $2,640 per year. Invested with a modest 7% average annual return over 20 years, that's over $120,000. Not from a dramatic sacrifice, from invisible charges that stopped being noticed 2 years ago. The action step is simple, but most people resist it because it takes about 30 minutes of mild discomfort. Pull up every subscription charge from the last 90 days. Write them down. Then ask for each one. When did I last use this? Would I actively choose to buy this again today if it weren't already automatic? Cancel everything that fails that test. Not to live like a monk, to stop funding someone else's wealth with your automated inattention. The fourth upgrade is the food and lifestyle inflation that comes with earning more and feeling like you've arrived. This one is emotionally charged because food and dining carry enormous social weight in American culture. Going out to eat, ordering delivery, buying the premium version of things at the grocery store, these are not just consumption choices. They are social rituals, self-care mechanisms, and markers of having moved past the struggle of earlier years. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Expenditure Survey, the average American household now spends over $3,000 per year on food away from home. And for households with rising incomes, this number climbs significantly, not because they're eating better, but because they're eating as a reward. A $14 lunch becomes the default because it used to be a treat, and nobody consciously decided to reclassify it. Here's the thing about food inflation specifically. It has a compounding social element. When a friend group collectively earns more and starts defaulting to nicer restaurants, skipping brunch or suggesting cheaper alternatives creates a quiet anxiety, an implicit risk of being perceived as behind, as struggling, or as not fitting the new social tier. So the spending continues not because of hunger, not even because of preference, but because the social cost of opting out feels higher than the financial cost of participating. This is identity-based spending, and it is incredibly powerful. The fix is not about deprivation. It's about making intentional choices rather than default ones. Decide in advance what the food budget is, not after the month is over when the damage is already done. A conscious $200 dinner 2 or 3 times a month is a completely different psychological event than $200 leaking out across 14 unconscious takeout orders. The fifth wealth killer, and arguably the most sophisticated one, is the salary increase that gets absorbed before it ever reaches savings. A raise feels like a windfall. It lands, and almost immediately, the brain begins finding places for it. The upgraded apartment, the nicer car, the extra subscriptions, the food budget. Each of these expands naturally to receive the new income. Economists have a name for this phenomenon: lifestyle inflation, or more precisely, consumption smoothing. As income rises, humans naturally increase spending to match. The Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances found that median family savings rates have remained remarkably flat even as household incomes have grown over the past 2 decades. The income goes up. The savings rate stays the same, because the spending rises in lockstep, dollar for dollar. What makes this psychologically brutal is that the person experiencing it is doing everything society told them to do. Work hard, get promoted, earn more, and yet the feeling of financial precarity barely shifts. This creates a particularly disorienting kind of stress, because the narrative says things should feel better by now. When they don't, people either blame themselves in vague, unspecific ways, or they conclude that their income just still isn't high enough. And so they work harder, aim for the next raise, and the cycle resets. Here's what most people don't realize. The fix for this isn't earning more. It's automating savings before lifestyle has a chance to absorb the income. There's a concept sometimes called paying yourself first, but the real mechanism is psychological friction management. When money goes directly from a paycheck into a savings or investment account before it hits a checking account, the brain never registers it as available. It cannot be spent on things it doesn't know exist. Even automating 10% of every raise, not the whole raise, just 10%, creates a compounding foundation over time that no amount of budgeting willpower can replicate. And here's where all 5 of these connect into one larger picture. None of them are about bad decisions in isolation. Each one is a rational response to a specific social pressure, emotional signal, or cultural expectation. The nicer apartment communicates stability. The newer car communicates success. The subscriptions communicate keeping up. The food spending communicates arrival. The absorbed raise confirms that the new lifestyle is deserved. Taken together, these 5 things construct a life that looks financially healthy from the outside and feels perpetually fragile from the inside. And the reason most people can't escape this cycle with discipline alone is that discipline is not a match for identity. When spending is tied to who we believe we are, who we want others to see us as, and what we think we've earned, no budget spreadsheet is strong enough to consistently override that. The actual shift happens when the goal changes, not spend less, because that framing puts people in a perpetual state of deprivation and failure. But build something that makes the future feel less terrifying. When saving becomes attached to a feeling of safety and agency rather than a feeling of sacrifice, the math starts working differently. Not because the numbers changed, because the motivation behind the numbers changed. The research on this is consistent across behavioral economics, psychology, and financial therapy. People who feel financially secure are not, on average, earning dramatically more than people who don't. They have, in most cases, simply interrupted the automatic relationship between income and spending. They created a gap. A small one, but a real one. And over time, that gap compounds. So here's the calm version of the conclusion. You don't need to eliminate all 5 of these things from your life. You don't need to downgrade your apartment, sell your car, cancel every subscription, stop eating out, and refuse every raise's natural pleasures. What matters is catching these behaviors in the moment before they become automatic, before they become the floor of what your lifestyle costs. That window of awareness is where real financial change lives. One upgrade delayed, one payment avoided, one raise partially protected before lifestyle absorbs it. These are small pivots that most people never make because no one told them the psychological story underneath the math. Now you know it. And knowing it changes what you notice. If this landed, share it with someone who just got a raise and seems busier than ever, but not any more settled. That's the person this was made for. Subscribe if you want more of this kind of thinking. No gimmicks, no get-rich noise. just the actual psychology of why money behaves the way it does in regular American life. See you in the next one.